boys and girls. Hey Digimon, champions of the digital world. Hey Digimon, ultimate friends to the boys and girls. Hey Digimon, champions of the digital world.
Hello Digifans and Digifriends, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the distant Digiman, Ryudo Reaver, and this is going to be the first of what will hopefully be many NCLDOD solo partner runs in Digimon Story Time Stranger. Before I get into the rules of these runs and the run itself, I just want to give a very brief history of my familiarity with the Digimon franchise as a whole, and what it meant to me. I remember waking up on Saturday mornings watching Fox Kids for the usual shows, and I remember the first time that Digimon made its way over to the Western Shores. I was there in the fires of the OG. I was there for the pilot episode. And even though it was just a simple concept of monster taming, it struck a chord with me that very few other franchises in my life have ever been able to reach. As a 7 or 8 year old kid, I was instantly enamored with just how mature the show treated its audience. Even then, the topics that they would discuss, throwing a group of kids into the unknown and relying on a predestined partnership just to survive the unforgiving digital landscape. Danger lurked around every corner, and the prospect of not making it home alive was a very real possibility for them. In the end, it was a series that stuck with me. But as I got older, I fell out of love with the franchise, and not because it was bad at any point, but life just caught up. These days, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and they took precedence in my life, as it goes with most parents. My resurgence back to the franchise came around the release of Ghost Game, where I showed my boys the trailer for it and they were both instantly engaged with it. Perks of parenthood, reliving your childhood. I liked it. Was the greatest show Digimon ever made? No. But the feelings began to stir at that point. It's at this point that Time Stranger came out. Obviously years later. And when it did, a part of me unlocked what people would generally call a core memory. The nostalgia of the old series, the old games, the old movie, just came rushing back to me all at once and filled me with a passion that's long since been extinguished in my life. It hit me in so many little beats that reminded me of the joy that I felt when I was young again, and redefined what the series truly means to me as an individual. This part is not at all in my script, and I'm gonna kind of wing it here, but I am nervous, very nervous, doing any form of public speaking, so bringing this to YouTube, it's going to take some time for me to adjust and become more and more comfortable with the process of what I'm doing. Just full disclosure, I have not used recording software, or editing software, or audio software, or any kind of computer software in over 14 years now. All of this is sudden, and I'm neck deep in what now has become a passion project of sorts. It just came over me like a wave, and I can't fight the current, So over the course of the last 3 weeks, I created a solo partner format for Digimon Time Stranger that encourages the natural capabilities of what a Mon can do. To see just how far I can take an individual Digivolution line without major artificial stat boosting or skill earning methods. After 4 runs, I solidified it. The NCLDOD Solo Partner format. So before going any further, I am going to give a shout out to 3 YouTubers. 2 of these are Poketubers that I've been watching for the last 3 to 5 years, and they're both Solomon runners themselves who inspired the ideas for these runs that I'll be doing for Digimon. While their content is fundamentally different due to how the games operate, I intend to make the most of what this particular Digimon game can offer. So I would like to send out a formal, humble, and very sincere thank you to YouTubers Scott's Thoughts and JRose11. Without your content, this idea would never have flourished or been a consideration in my mind, so thank you. Second shout out is very short and sweet. Go check out Digimon Challenge Theater. He's got pretty good video, and it looks like he knows what he's doing. Looking forward to seeing the content that he pumps out over the course of the next year or 2. So let's get into the NCLDOD project. What is my goal? Well, it's rather simple. Tedious and lengthy, but simple. I plan to clear Digimon Story Time Stranger with every Canon Digivolution line that I possibly can, in a solo partner run. While there is some speculation for Digimon Digivolution lines, I have planned up to 36 runs currently, and in this list there is only a single repeat Digimon, who is a rookie level. I'll get more into that when we get to that video. When I compiled my list of 36 Digivolution lines, I considered what was practical, what was logical, what makes sense in a Canon Digivolution line. I'll use the Leomon line as an example. Leomon in the show for Adventure 01 was only shown as Leomon. We don't know what his baby form was, we don't know what his rookie form was. But we do know that he also digivolved to Saber Leomon. So, I'm allowed to pick a Leomon within the Ultimate category to match this. So his overall Digivolution line would be Gaomon, Leomon, Grap Leomon, and then finally ending with Saber Leomon. This is just one of many examples I have on the list, but I am doing my best to make them make sense. The rules are simple enough with only a few minor caveats. I'll discuss them in the video, and then I'll briefly mention them in other videos going forward, that way I can reduce intro time. These videos do take a very long time to make, so any time that I can cut out in the process, the better. The goal? Defeat Chronomon in the lowest game time possible, at the lowest level possible, with the least amount of knockouts against my Mons. My runs will begin officially after Kuwagumon for a very specific purpose. Unlike a lot of the old Poké games, where one can add their starter or change their passive skills, this game is new, and those features, especially on a PS5, are just not possible. However, in the government building itself, you have access to almost any other Digimon Digivolution route in the game if you invest enough time. Only in this building will I be allowed to convert my Mons for combat. What you need to understand in a lot of these runs, you will need to obtain your starter. The game offers Patamon, Gomamon, and Demidevimon, and that's it. Much like Pokemon starters, this severely limits our options, and that would make for very boring content. I, as a stats nerd, simply can't allow that. So the time spent in this building will not be applied to the runs. This is due to the fact that some Mons take a larger degree of setup time. For example, Palmon. To get a Palmon, you have to de-digivolve to Modimon, match the personality with Punamon, so that you can then de-digivolve to Punamon, then match Tanamon's personality, then digivolve, then match Palmon. It's a whole thing. Some of these Digimon take a very long time to set up. Another contributing factor is that in-training Digis cannot complete this setup alone. They simply don't have enough survivability or even damaging signature moves. I tried to do this numerous times to no avail. So as such, I may recruit up to 2 other Mons to assist me with the setup grind. Only in the government building will they be allowed to assist my main getting set up. The attachment skills that I obtained from them may be kept, which adds another small layer of strategy to these runs, albeit very, very minor. With all of the setup process discussed, what are the actual rules to the NCLDOD Solo Partner Run? To keep it short, the difficulty will always be on hard mode, and I must rigidly stick to my planned Digivolution route. NCLDOD format stands for no converting, no loading, no DIGIFARM, or no outer dungeons. All of these will impact the Mon's natural capabilities. Aegio is a meat shield. There really is no other way to describe him. Since the game forces him on you, his only action taken will be to guard. I may not use cross arts or items on his turn, and he may not be healed. There is a very small asterisk with this, but I will get to this later in the run. This can actually matter in some cases, as I've learned through testing. Aegio being present does 2 things that aid me though. It slightly increases the CP gain every turn while he's alive, and 2, it can take some of the boss heat off your Mon in dire situations. There are times where I'm convinced legitimately that some of these runs would be impossible without these minor boons. Now we move on to NPCs. At numerous points in a run, you will be given allies who, uncontrolled, will assist you in battle. As they aren't controlled by the player and are mandatory, side note, they also can't be KO'd either, this sucks, I am considering them a tool at my disposal. And without them, early game would straight up be impossible for certain Digimon, as you simply don't have the survivability early on to deal with champions or ultimates or megas. So use them, buff them, reverse them. NPCs are all fair game. All cross arts are permitted without restriction, and any items obtained that you don't need may be sold. I initially made an arbitrary rule where you couldn't sell DigiFarm items pre-DigiWorld, as it gives good startup money, but the more runs I've done, the more I see that this is not a glitch, this is not an exploit, it's a mechanic. As such, I will be selling them as soon as I can in these runs. The money isn't too helpful immediately, but there will come a time that it is. So that's about it. That is the NCLDOD format. The only other detail I will go over is a minor run caveat that's an unavoidable rule break. Since this will be considered necessary in majority of runs, I want to clear the air on it now. Early game in the sewers, you are required to have an electric move to open a metal gate. Unfortunately, there is no way to get an electric move unless your starter begins with one or can learn one. As such, I will be recruiting a beta mon for these tunnels, convert him for the move, unlock the gate, and then return him to data immediately, after his purpose is essentially obsolete. Nonetheless, I want to address it just so the viewers know. I will not go over this process in every run. This is exclusively to my first video, and again, a reference sheet will be posted pre-run with the rules and the caveats in the video briefly, and included in the description below. Now, officially, let's get on to the first run and the run of the franchise's mascot, WarGreymon. Just so we're clear, I am having a very fun time messing with my editor. It is something. That's all I gotta say. It is something. First things first, let's go over Aegomon's pros and cons. Well, he is a vaccine type, which gives him a natural advantage over a great deal of bosses, as well as many major foes as their virus typing. He is weak to ice and lightning, but is resistant to fire and earth. So when we do reverse, this will be impacted and something that we will have to consider. His signature Pepper Breath is an advantage early game with a solid 40 base damage. Not much downside to it. I did try to set him up with Slow Starter in the government building, but I do think this was a mistake. While Slow Starter is a fantastic passive skill, especially for longer battles and solo partner runs, Agumon may struggle with the mob clearing ability due to his crowd control potential. He can learn crowd control moves like all other Mons, but unlike intelligence-based magic users, he'll often find himself without the damage range necessary and it'll slow him down as we progress. Many Mons have higher defense than special, so I decided to run Cheer to give him an early battle advantage boost. Hopefully, this is the right decision in the long term. I fight every possible battle here in the sewers to give myself the optimal chance of beating WarGreymon. Even though I do have an advantage over him, he can inflict poison and disease with sludge. Poison is damage over time, but honestly, not the problem. What is the problem is the SP. Agumon has very serious early game SP issues. Disease is a status that prevents SP recovery. Even at level 8, I only have 5 pepper sprays worth of SP. This is a terrible combination, and WarGreymon uses sludge almost every turn. If I can't heal my SP, I could be in for a very long and drawn out fight that does not favor me. Fortunately, I do have enough healing throughout the battle, and I heal SP at any opportunity I get. WarGreymon is weak to vaccine and fire, so damage is never an issue. And since he has very few high damage moves, before too long, WarGreymon returns to the digital sludge pool. We make our way to the new HQ, in Ori's home, and at this point, we will get a reasonable stat boost given a small time investment. I go to the 3 data points around town and then begin my Shinjuku chip collection. This is a pivotal part of any solo run. Since you will have one Mon in these runs, all the stat chips you find will be given directly to the same Mon, so greater overall stat gain. To my count, there are 18 chips scattered around the streets and throughout the subway station, and more than half of these are static stat boosting chips. Talent Awakeners and Friendship chips are also very useful early, as we will be gaining limited talent via Digivolution, and Bond is always just good for extra strike frequency. The sooner we can max this, the better. After collecting all the chips, we pump them into Agumon and head home. So we make our way into the sewers with Inori and Hiroko to chase around a multicolored rodent. Along the way, we get poison wall from behind a Garromon. Unfortunately, this comes one boss too late. Can it have use? It could, especially with the number of mice in the sewers. But we're past that point of it being an essential, as no other boss between here and the Digiworld will use poison. Mobs do, but by now you should have enough access to poison recovery items. I battle my way through the sewers, fighting all Mons in my path for experience, and come out to our inevitable rule break. I discussed this earlier, so I won't go over it again, but our Betamon opens the door and we continue our pursuit. Our residential rodent sets himself up in the optimal location for a bath, and the pursuit continues. We have him cornered. He's got nowhere to go. Never mind. Guess we're getting a nice workout today. We continue to follow the creature into the sewer depths. After a bit more chase, we encounter a larger creature who sees him as a nice bite-sized snack. But no agent with a moral conscience would sit by and watch this buffet happen, so we jump into the fray versus Cyclonemon. Cyclonemon has every disadvantage in this fight against Agumon. His primary means of damage is hyperheat. In most situations, this is a hard to counter move, as it reduces fire resistance. Without stat recoveries, his damage ranges can be brutal. Fortunately for me, Agumon is naturally resistant to this. And wouldn't you know it, our residential rodent becomes our residential meat shield. Since all he can do is guard, this helps us build up an additional burst cross art to assist in the fight, as this is the most logical cross art in general to go to, with some exceptions, bosses primarily, as options become available to you. There really isn't much to say here. With the chip boosts, cannon fodder, resistances in our favor, Cyclonemon doesn't stand much of a chance. His only remotely threatening move is an acceleration-boosted Bunmawashi, I don't know. But even that is near useless due to the vaccine typing. And with that, we clear the sewers and continue forward. After a good night's sleep, me and Aegio are left to our own devices. Aegio gets himself a fancy new getup before meeting up with Dr. Simmons. Aegio is required to do this section solo, so we are going to run this as you normally would. There is no workaround here. I've also heard, through the grapevine, not a lot of the community was too fond of Dr. Simmons. But for me, she's just my type. Sure, she's a little crazy and ecstatic for research, but hey, I can relate. I too am a nerd, and I'm proud to be one. I will say this though, the first side mission was actually pretty intimidating. Egermon is a vaccine type. Reversal didn't offer me any assistance here, and he actually hits Agumon surprisingly hard with Vathium. But in the end, Burst Cross Art puts our local 20th down for a nap. I won't cover all the side quests, just those with interesting or important moments, or this video could easily be 5 to 6 hours long. Just know that I am doing them. It is very imperative to successfully completing a run off of raw and natural stats to do so. We head to the sewers and find some missing children. Somehow, they found their way into a random distortion, and now are being hunted by 2 Vetamon. This just won't do, so me and Agumon spring into action. I stopped at the in-between theater to grab Venom Trap before this fight, as it is a big aid. I also grabbed Idle Bubble, as this will become very important later in the run. We do have an advantage against the Vetamon at first, but once they drop below 60 HP or so, they will use Reversal. So I start by making sure both Vetamon are poisoned, then weaken both with a Pepper Breath. Aegio gets crystallized. Honestly, looks pretty good on him. But before the Vetamon have a chance to reverse, I hit them with Burst and another Pepper Breath immediately after, and I take one of the Vetamon down. I stall out the other, and I move forwards. What this battle in particular teaches you is that you need to prepare well for some of these solo encounters, not even just the boss fights. Some enemy groups may or may not be a perfect counter to you if you are unprepared. I learned this the hard way in my WarGreymon test run, as it cost me my first KO here. Luckily, this was a flawless, very flawless response to that run. So I spend what AP I have before leaving the house. We're off to meet the big boy himself, Blue Metal Greymon. No matter what Mon I play, the theme is always the same here. Minerva gets her time to shine. She is the carry. This is thematically appropriate as she is a Mega level Digimon. So the fight ends up being less than epic, but there's another reason for why this is a breeze. Agumon's resistances. All Blue Metal Greymon has is Earth, which I resist, and AoE Null, which has a very low base power to start with. So he really is no threat between resistances and data typing. I even take a moment to flex and throw a couple resisted Pepper Breaths at him just because I can. Nervy lays a smackdown and we inch ourselves closer to the Digiworld. Now I get some serious firepower. I make sure I grab Strike with AP, as it's nice having single enemy utility. And now it's time to Digivolve. Every time I do this run, I always confuse WarGreymon and Greymon's images. I had to double check that I was digivolving to the right form for this moment. I always pre-save a Digivolution file just in case, as I've had painful moments by not doing so before. In these solo runs, it is extremely important to check on your stats during Digivolution. This often changes resistances with many Mons and can seriously change how you approach enemies moving forward. Those who weren't a threat now very much can be. This process comes with game experience though. In Greymon's case, I am still resistant to earth and fire. However, I'm no longer weak to lightning. Instead, I'm weak to water. I don't see this being a big issue with the enemies ahead, but it is still a detail worth noting. Another thing to check for is your signature move. Mega Flame is an AoE, Pepper Breath essentially. The base damage remains the same, but the AoE effect will become extremely useful alongside Cheer for mob cleanup. It is still slightly more effective than Ignition Flame 2, once you account for accuracy anyway. So we head off to Akihabara and find Dr. Simmons. Along the way, we pick up a few extra stat chips. She sends us to help her colleagues, who are having quite a awful time, you see. I quickly dispatch the 3 Black Chronomon one at a time, but they still simply refuse to listen to reason. So, we gotta wrap this all up at once. Between Burst, Mega Flame, they stand no chance, and they're quickly forced to give back the goods. Honestly, they're so frail defensively, the only potential threat they pose is confusing Aegio. Why is that? Well, if Aegio attacks under the influence of confusion, by my rules, I am forced to restart the fight. Just know, if this happens, I will not be adding it to the KO tally. In the future, I may come up with a secondary error counter, but who knows. Once again, Minerva asserts her dominance by attacking last. She really is stealing all the glory from Greymon in this run. One last opponent now stands between me and digitization, so let's go. Since this is the last opportunity to clear up side quests in this section of the game, I wrap up what's left and progress the story. On the way to Titamon, there is a room full of Goblimon. This can actually be a very good place to grind in runs where Mons need additional levels, but I won't be needing any of this today. Instead, I stop at the in-between to ensure that I have a good amount of recovery and do a bit of item management, and then I confront the Berserker himself. This fight is another Minerva moment. She does bulk of the carrying in this fight. However, for some Mons, Titamon's Soul Core attack can be devastating. So just to be safe, when he uses it, I decide to guard and brace for it. As it turns out, this is hardly a threat. I keep my HP SP topped up through the fight, and even take full damage from the next Soul Core attack. Greymon just chews through SP. I'm less than excited for when we have Giga Destroyer, as it is costly and will force me to slow the pace to heal a bit. Should you choose to do these runs yourself, remember, you don't get 1 turn per round, you get 2. Your agent. Sometimes 3 with cross arts. Make the most of your tools. Use them early, use them often. Minerva kicks the big brute through the gate before all of us get swallowed by the abyss. And we've made it. Roll credits. This was a great run. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Yeah, right. This run's just getting started. 3 hours of recording, countless hours of editing, scripting, audio bites. What have I signed myself up for? I blame Reddit entirely. It's easier this way. Going off script, I am going to say a lot of these videos won't be as long as the first video will be. There's a lot of little things that I'm adding into this video that won't be in future runs, so recording time will be a lot shorter in the future. Now that we're in the Digiworld, everything begins to streamline for the time being, speeding up the process of setup along the way. I buy some Tier 2 recovery items and replace my Tier 1s, and I also grab the known bug from the hut. This run may not see much use of this item, but it's always a wise decision to grab it while we're here. We attempt to meet with Marukimon, but are stood up at the door. The bouncer is less than pleasant. Despite the fun atmosphere of the bar, he sends me on a quest to prove that I know Minervamon. Though the attempt is valiant, she's nowhere to be found. Fortunately, her siblings just so happen to be outside her door. We meet with Moon Jr., strike up a deal. Save Chronomon, and she'll find us nervy. It's just good business, I suppose. It's at this point that Greymon's massive attack stat and sheer ability start beginning to shine. Many of the sewer mobs he can clear with a single Mega Flame. The plan is slowly coming together. On another note, in the central sewer we cross a rare spawn of a Platinum Numemon. I waste 0 time in this encounter and immediately use Burst. This is a very important moment in the run, as this supplements my income with a Digi-Egg, 50k yen, and provides almost 2 full levels of experience. It's at this point in the run that Greymon learns to fly. Not sure when he learned that ability, but I do admire his ambitions. Finally, I come to the trio of ugly Shrek wannabes who are picking on children less than half their size. And appropriately, they feel violence against us is the best solution. But there's not much to say in this fight. Though I did make a critical mistake of not switching to Strike over Burst, WarGreymon loses stats every time one of his 2 allies goes down. So, it's always good to go for them first if you have the opportunity. Sadly, once again, the glory is stolen by Minerva. I must say, she is quite the kill-stealing machine in this run. Would be nice to at least get one final blow here or there. At first it was cute, now it's just starting to get a little irritating. After finding Minerva, she agrees to go with us to Marukimon, where we could finally meet the ruler of this fine digital town. Okay, the central tower is a massive task. This area took me about 45 minutes of game time due to the sheer scale of it, but for time's sakes, I'll only be talking about the most critical of information. I make my way up the tower, burning my way through majority of the fights with ease, while Minerva continues her kill-stealing ways. She's just straight up selfish at this point. It's a good thing I get the experience, or I'd be a pretty salty man right about now. Shortly after, I encounter a gold Numamon this time. The rewards here are again invaluable, and will prove very useful in the near future. RNG gives, and RNG takes. I'm not looking forward to when it takes. A little over halfway up the tower, I find an electric guard. This is absolutely required for the upcoming boss battle, as a lot can go very wrong very fast. The only time this may not be hyper useful to you is if your Mon is naturally resistant to electricity, or can reverse into damage reduction. We eventually get to the top of the tower and make a quick stop to resupply our healing and boosters at the in-between theater. Up to this point, very little has been a struggle. Because this is the second proper run of WarGreymon, and I'm not going into this run blind, I will say this fight can truly catch you off guard, and being ill-prepared is basically a death sentence. I put on the electric guard and paralysis wall too. Parrotmon is scary as a boss, but you know what else is scary? Random lightning damage. No, sorry, not the damage. The paralysis itself. Getting paralyzed against Parrotmon is an instant KO. Missing even a single turn of recovery can cost you your KO here. So while raw stats are very nice, I feel this is the better approach to take. I waste no time getting in fast damage by launching Burst and Mega Flame. From here on, I reverse Minerva and begin alternating buffs and healing items on my turn to keep in a strong position. Then comes the buildup of power. I really didn't think this part through, and honestly probably should have saved my Burst. But what's done is done. I fail to break him and I have Greymon guard to tank the attack, Mjolnir Thunder, which, due to the setup, does pitiful damage. However, the giant chicken takes a great deal of offense to this. He starts returning fire with Hellcrusher 2 and 3. Since we have no resistances to dark, we take full intel boosted damage, and Greymon even has to muster his strength at one point. Then Marukimon jumps in to give us his aid. With the new combined strength, a burst stored up, Parrotmon's next charge is broken, and from there the crew push the advantage till Greymon scores the final blow. I have really run out of things to say at this point. I just can't keep up with her. It's just crazy. I actively tried for that final blow too. After a brief discussion with Marukimon, he sends us to the factory to restore power to the train network on our new pal Blimpmon. What I really love about Digimon is just the simplicity of the names. You look at a table and you're like, yep, you're Tabledramon. It's fun just knowing most Mons, even when you're unfamiliar with them, have that level of simplicity. And yes, someone out there on the net will likely be yelling at me through the screen, oh, there's no such thing as Tabledramon. To clarify, I am aware. We keep moving along and not much happens for a bit as I go through the motions of the factory. I give the electric stag Beetle a nice jolt, which he seems put him in a frisky mood. I enter the next area in the factory, and Greymon becomes an absolute wrecking ball here. Over 1400 attack at this point in the run is above average for most physical types in my testing. But I am paying for it in spirit, and that could prove problematic down the line. I also still have the occasional SP issues. There are a couple sections here where Aegio is forced to fight. As I stated under the rules, this is played as normal, so we do get full use of stun beat blow during these sequences. Before I know it, we encounter the residential Digimeme Chronomon. Going forward, I would like to find a unique way to bring him to the channel, at least once per video. Maybe play a small game of Where's Chronomon each episode. Who knows. Chronomon's cringe, but in the best of ways. I am very fond of him and glad that they actually gave him the attention he deserved in this game. So we make our way to the exit and reunite the two Beetle Bros. Now I can make my way towards Volcanismon. I resupply quick and equip Thorn Strike 1 in the place of heal. A magic move, yes, but as niche as it is, it might see use in the next boss fight. Ultimate Brachiomo. This overgrown cyber serpent has a simple gimmick. For the first 30% of his life gauge, he negates most physical damage. Second 30% of his life gauge, he negates most magical damage. And in the last phase, he's supposed to reduce both, but to a lesser degree. Though, if I'm honest, I'm not 100% sure that this battle works the way it's intended. It doesn't seem that either is reduced, but maybe there's just something I'm overlooking. It's possible. I have a lot of data in mind, and I am human. I will miss some things. I use Burst to power through Phase 1, and it's quickly skipped. Again, forgot to switch to Strike, but this is fine. I do reverse Brachiomonn, as he has a type advantage over Greymon. But this means leaving myself exposed to earth damage. It's a small trade, but worth it. I use boosters every chance I get, but save the multis I bought from Ebermon in the factory. Multis are hard to get early on, but using the money the game threw at me this run, I have enough for critical battles. I won't be using those here though, just a single booster as the boss isn't a big threat. Once I have burst and have maximized my damage, I go to town with Volcanipalm 2 until he falls. And fall he does, making a perfect slide right next to the boss Volcanismon. In some runs this fight can be taxing and lengthy. For Greymon, this isn't the case. I made a conscious decision to get an upgrade HP attachment pre-fight just for a little extra wiggle room. Critical choice in this fight is your cross art. Both Strike and Burst have good utility. The crowd control on the hands is nice, but the direct shot on Volcanismon for Greymon is key. Since Greymon has Mega Flame, Strike is the better option. Not to mention the type advantage he has, so Greymon's core damage will be pretty low. Something you need to manage in this fight is the hands. If you can't break his core when it's open, his hands will return adapted to your data typing. They will target your weakness, and Machine Gun Punch can be fatal. Reverse is needed here, but you need to be smart with how you use it. I have no bug recovery, as the RNG didn't favor me in this way, so reversing myself isn't my first choice. I'd much rather flip the data hands one by one, but Taunt makes this impossible, so I fall back to risking using it on myself. Another minor factor in this fight is the timing for your cross art. Sometimes stalling on a single hand to build CP can make a sizable difference in these solo runs. If you have the resources and durability, take advantage of it. Each time the core is open, Strike does massive damage, and Greymon is durable enough to deal with the hands efficiently. With frequent heals, boosters, the big tin can be pretty easily dispatched. I just want to say, mechanically, this fight is one of my personal favorites in Time Stranger. There's a lot to think about when it comes to countering this boss, and it often requires a decent amount of battle preparation for being such an early game enemy. There are a lot of numbers on the screen at the same time, and this can really force you to engage with the battle hub. I finish up the factory and head back to Central, where Marukimon sends me off to Junomon's temple. A bunch of side quests open up here, as usual. I do them. Nothing too interesting to talk about. But Loader Leomon fight was actually a fun back and forth exchange in this run. And so, it's time to head off to the Abyss region. Was that unnecessary? Probably. Did I want to do it? Yes. For a place called the Abyss, it's actually quite a beautiful landscape. The irony is not lost on me, especially with what this place looks like later in the game. A big change though is when we get to the Abyss, we now have Metal Greymon due to the AP gained from all the side quests. But I wait until a specific point at Shellmon's house to keep Mega Flame for as long as possible. Time to compare Greymon to his ultimate form, Metal Greymon. There are a number of changes here. Firstly, Metal Greymon gets steel resistance and loses his weakness to water, which is great. However, he retains his weakness in ice, but more detrimental, he's double weak to lightning now. This could potentially cause a couple issues with certain bosses in the future. Looking at you, Skullseedramon. But we will see. Hopefully his raw endurance can help balance out the double weakness. But just take a look at his signature, Giga Destroyer. 90 base damage. With Metal Greymon's relatively high attack stat, this will lead to extremely high damage outputs once multipliers come into play. Single targets will be much less threatening for a while. This point is a severe power spike in majority of runs. The earlier you can get your ultimate, the better off you should be. I made sure to save all my courage chips for this, just so I started at higher levels in ultimate, as I blast my way through to Sharkmon. Not much planning has to go into this fight due to the power spike, but dealing with his pawns, the Divermon, is top priority. So a quick reverse to both, and then nothing but Aqua Pressure too now that they're weak to it. I'm even so confident in this fight, I just face tank an all-out bombardment without guarding. I actually think it's the fastest I've ever beaten down Sharkmon's little buddies. Once they're gone, a few nano machine breaks and Giga Destroyers later, and it's done. Quick stop back at Junomon's palace and a couple more side quests later, and it's off to Gear Forest. Once again, when it comes to Gear Forest, the power spike in this area pretty much carries you. But there are numerous times where I switched to a known bug to deal with the mob sets. Most mobs come in two varieties. Virus groups, like the Flymon and Woodmon, and data groups, like the Muchomon or Daramon. Since these combinations are consistent, I can optimize moving through the area relatively efficiently. This won't come up too much, but in these runs there is so much management to the inventory and the Mons that goes on behind the scenes. So when optimizing one of these runs, I'm picking specific intervals to load up on boosters, healing, and skills. Restock locations and times will be changed based on the Mon, and what is readily available to the player. Sometimes the game throws money at you, or your rare mobs are more frequent, so resources are net positive. There are a lot of nuance to the RNG revolving around the item spawns in Time Stranger, and I do love that. Before long, I make my way to Cherrymon, but he really isn't worth talking about, I assure you. I absolutely smash him. 2 Giga Destroyers. That's it. He never really is hard in these runs, but boy oh boy does Metal Greymon, he just packs a punch. I do minor inventory management, and before I can breathe, another battle lies ahead with the Kuwagumon. As I am new to recording in videos, I did notice an audio issue at this point in the video. If you've noticed, I haven't been using voice clips or game audio, and there's a reason for that. Honestly, I have a lot of things that I am trying to fix on the back end, and for this video, being my first video, I am just doing the best I can with what I have. This fight with a Kuwagumon is pretty simple, but your main target is him. Allies will endlessly spawn at his side, so taking them out isn't ideal. Tanking their damage is preferential while you focus down the leader. I did forget to equip Strike for this fight, and you'll notice I do that a lot in these battles. Sometimes it's an error, sometimes it's intentional. I'll let you decide on when and why I'm not using it. Unless, of course, its use is a critical factor. Which in this battle, it's not. But do have character reverse on you for this fight. A Kuwagumon below half HP will use it on himself. If you are a vaccine type, cast yours on yourself. This is also valuable to mitigate damage by reversing his allies, should they have the advantage. After fly swatting them away from the current, I clean up the remaining side quests and prepare for war. Literally. I'm gonna say now, the simplicity of the side-scrolling minigame going into this section of the story is a lot of fun. It really adds to the atmosphere and the intensity of the sequence. It's always nice seeing Grand Kuwagumon get owned, not once, but twice in less than 2 minutes. I never liked its design, speaking truthfully, but I also can't deny I really am looking forward to running him in this game. Like the first fight with these guys, they're easy. The power spike is still in effect at this point, and these guys aren't even technically a boss, more like an appetizer at a restaurant. Instead of decreasing the leader's stats when the other two fall, this time they get double actions every round collectively. Even then, the damage is negligible. With Giga Destroyer pumping out huge damage, each one falls in sequence. It's at this point that I considered keeping track of just how many naps our residential meat shield takes on this arduous journey, especially in the late game. I've done 8 test runs of this format with different Mons, and every run I just get a laugh at some of the ways Aegio is taken out. Could be a fun side metric to tally up. So we get sent through the portal by an extremely angry Chronomon and end up in Shinjuku. But the streets are a little less friendly this time around. I wade through the city rebooting the MP shields for the agency, and then it's on to the next boss, Titamon, and his angry pet, Skulldogmon. Before going into this fight, I stop at the in-between and make sure my supplies are in good order, but I am careful with my spending. Beyond this level lies access to multi-boosters, and I want as many as I can afford. Alright, this fight can catch some Mons off guard. 8 fights so far in my trial runs, and in at least 6, the battle had to be approached in different ways. While certain fundamentals are the same each time you run this boss, this is where you really get to see the difference between your Mon's capabilities. This run has been done alongside my Magna Angemon trial run. I had a KO here with him. Will the same fate be in store for WarGreymon? Well, let's get to it. Digivolution isn't a big deal. He doesn't bring anything significant to the table, and I resist both Virus and Earth, so he doesn't have a lot of means to deal damage to me. I use this time to buff up with boosters and just pump damage. He falls quick. Now, the real fight begins. Before this fight, I remember to equip the Dark Guard. While I wasn't too sure it was necessary since WarGreymon is neutral to Dark, I knew it couldn't hurt. Also, always bring X-Heal into this fight. Trust me, it's near essential. See, multi-wall doesn't prevent the injury status. Injury makes it so your Mon can't be healed. If Titamon's first freeze attack connects and inflicts this status, you will game over, as your agent only ever gets one action. There is a chance this cannot inflict the status, which obviously is the best case scenario. But if it does this is why you need X-Heal. Your Mon can keep themselves in the fight for at least a turn while you recollect yourself. I really don't think I would have survived his follow-up Soul Fear, even with the Dark Guard. Even if I had, it would have been by the skin of my teeth. But in the critical moment, WarGreymon evades the fatal blow. This gives me all the time I need to regather. I drop the EM device and cancel out Titamon's next time freeze. From here, the fight balances out and alleviates. I even get a good chance to use acceleration boosts in this fight. Giga Destroyer is super effective against him, and between buffing, healing, managing injury, he eventually does bite the dust without much more issue. So far, this is my best performance with the Greymon line. 0 KOs at this halfway mark. But like I mentioned, these aren't blind runs, at least this one. I think that's a big difference up till now. But some bosses beyond this point can be a significant threat and extremely unpredictable. Best not to let my guard down now. Time gets real messy here. A long sequence of events transpires, and in the end we arrive at the underground resistance for Digimon in the human world. As it turns out, in this timeline, Titans have taken control of Central Town and Marukimon is injured. Well, poisoned. And needless to say, hell is broken loose between both worlds. A lot of cutscenes take place in this section of the game, and I really won't cover that in these videos. It's not part of the gameplay, it's not priority, just gonna keep pushing forward. Many discussions later, and we can return to the digital world. I can't help but admire the duality of Central Town. One town so sunny, so bright, so hope-inducing, while the other, in control of the Titans, the atmosphere shifts to dread, dark, hopeless. It's just great. The clean Digitown versus a Digilandfill. Credit to the devs here, as the shift between the town is extreme and you just feel how far those who remain have fallen, and how depraved the Titan-run Central Town really is. We check out the tavern and meet a Digimon named Lanamon. Fortunately, she just so happens to know Blimpmon, who's digivolved to Master Blimpmon at this point. Off to find for Marukimon a healer, and as it turns out, we know just the Mon. We go see Shellmon, and my, oh my.
You're the only one who still calls me that, you know.
Quite a makeover she's received in the last 8 years. But she still is the healer amongst those who remain. We request her aid, but require a peace offering to be given to the leader of the Titans. As the need is dire, we make our way to the waves beneath and encounter a potentially dangerous foe to Metal Greymon, Skullseedramon. Alright, so why is this fight a very dangerous fight? Well, when I did my first trial run of WarGreymon, Lightning Javelin almost one-shot me through my guard. This is due to my extreme weakness to lightning. Not to mention, only about 60% of the time is Skullseedramon open to my attacks as a solely physical attacker. I do bring power energy in here, but even with int boosters, it's just chip damage. Skullseedramon's dark attacks aren't really a threat. The big concern is his Thunderfall 3. It is strong enough to force me into recovery, but the moment that reflect comes down, Giga Destroyer drops some extremely heavy damage. Then he raises his tail, and I'm a bit worried here, but I do decide being aggressive is the best option. I brought Burst into this fight because I didn't think I would break his first signature move, but with a stacked crit and attack, Burst and Giga Destroyer get the job done. Done is an overstatement. The damage during this break is just immense. While I do still take some heavy damage from Thunderfall 3, I just wait for my openings to get solid damage in, and with a final well-timed rocket to the jaw, the bony eel is sent to the briny depths. I really am unsure what would have happened if he hit me with Lightning Javelin, but I don't have to worry about that. The next two fights I don't foresee being too challenging at all. A lot of people would probably skip over Lanamon as a boss, but in my trial runs, Lanamon is actually a significant threat to some Mons, especially if you go in undergeared. Given my experience here, I don't make that mistake. Nano Machine Break 2, Venom Trap, and Aqua Guard. These will carry me through the next two battles as reverse won't be necessary. This part's a bit frustrating. 60% chance to poison, and I miss my first 3 poison attacks. I'm just sitting there eating damage, essentially. I would like to say too, this would be the rule break. Remember when I mentioned there would be a caveat based on healing Aegiomon? Well, this is that fight. Under my rules, NPCs are considered tools, and this conflicts with the no healing Aegio. One rule does come to contradict the other, but I won't be counting this as a reset. Why? Well, 2 reasons. 1, allies are tools speaks for itself, but the more important factor, I have 0 control of this. And even if she didn't have the attachment for Holy Light, Love You is a signature move. If this was a playable Mon, it is permissible to be used when Aegio is down. I will be doing a Venusmon run in the future, and the lack of offensive signature terrifies me, but that's for another day. Either way, due to Aqua Guard, Lanamon really can't pump out enough damage to bring my hulking mechanical dragon down. I do love a rain stream animation though. Simple, but effective. No time to rest though. Time to save the King of the Seas from his predestined fate. This fight isn't necessarily hard, but as a physical attacker, I have very few means of breaking her signature. Even if I did bring in Frozen Bullet, the damage would be negligible at best. I'm relying on my cross art and my allies for break here. Her dark attacks could have done damage, but she seemed hard focused on my allies in this fight, so I didn't have much defensively to concern myself with. So, during her charge, I don't even bother with her meter. I just go right for her body. Well, core. That came out pretty badly. I'm banking on the guard to hold her back, and use a stat recovery for my accuracy, as missing moves here is just never fun. Titanic Charge does alright damage through the guard, but it's not remarkable. I heal up and continue draining her HP little by little through the fight, using boosters as necessary. In the end, Neptunemon and Venusmon get to have their happy little reunion, and we return to the in-between. Now, we aim to make this clock strike midnight by saving every soul of the Olympus 12. Next up, Gear Forest. There is a lot of running around from this point forward, most of which I've already cut out and will continue cutting out due to the limiting time of these videos. They are already going to be long enough. This whole run around me is just one of the tedious aspects of these runs. Why not just teleport us to the important areas? Just feels like unnecessary bloat. Either way, I do take a bit of time to train here in Gear Forest. The game does briefly mention this, but level matters more than you think it might, and for more than just raw stats. I'm not sure of the actual formula, but on Reddit, I did see a formula that takes the difference between your opponent and yourself, level comparative, to calculate the damage input and output beyond the standard damage multipliers. If you're 5 levels lower, for example, than your opponent, damage will be reduced proportional to that difference. The same is true of the inverse. So a bit of training here does benefit you staying close to the boss ranges and optimize your Mons efficiency. Also, Meat Shield over here got rocked 9 times. 9 times on the way to Gear Forest Village. I may just have to start an Aegio nap counter at this rate. So I burst through the area not once but twice, accumulating a good amount of EXP along the way. Before long we reach the village, only to see everyone inspired by Meat Shield's nap efforts, and they take a nice nap of their own, including Kuwagumon. Our group isn't tired, however, and we make our way to wake him from his slumber. But something wicked this way comes in the form of Witchmon. She is a very minor roadblock. With multi-wall, we can't be put to sleep. With character reverse, she can't do much damage. The only remotely threatening thing she has is attack reflect, and given this is turn-based game, I can simply guard it and stall it out. She doesn't even use it in this fight anyways, but I thought I would make a note of it. I break her special for flex points, but that's all. Knowing her mechanics really trivializes this encounter outright. With an angry Kuwagumon backing us up, we can escape this dream and make our way to the sanctuary to protect the current. At this point, we have all the buffs we need from our agent tree. We won't be getting any more power spikes beyond Digivolution here, but the last points we do have benefit us for this fight. In numerous trial runs I've done in this game, Shine a Bee can be one of the most terrifying moves to deal with. It has high damage, it's fire typing, and the recoil is countered due to boss's multiple turns. Not to mention, Tyrant Kabuterimon loves to lower your defense stat. In this fight though, it is almost irrelevant. We have type advantage and elemental resistance to our disposal. Giga Destroyer once again drops heavy single target damage here. We drop the oversized bug very quickly and return the flow of the forest to its flourishing state. I just want to say, out of all the arcs in this game, this one hit me the most. It isn't my personal favorite arc, but it is a solid gut punch. Digimon really doesn't shy away from the hard topics, but they find a way to show it in a classy, almost wholesome way. Fortunately, we have the power to change the dreary fate. Once again, a monsoon of running around occurs. But, once I get back to Shinjuku, I go around gathering leftover chips that I couldn't get the last time I was here. Another 12 to my count above and below ground wait for you here. More if you didn't grab some passing through earlier on in the run. I go to the underground arena in Shinjuku to meet with a grown-up Bearmon. But this place speaks with strength, so we're forced to fight our way through. The tournament is mostly uninteresting, except for the royal trio of King Edamon and co. King Edamon's allies are data type. The simple answer is character reversal, right? Well, yes. And no. King Edamon has a move called Monkey Wrench. This lowers the offensive stats of my Mon. But worse than that, it taunts you. I won't be able to individually reverse Mamamon XL and Dark Superstarmon. At most, I can get one, leaving me exposed to very heavy damage from the other. If I reverse myself, taking down King Edamon will take a long time. And given I am timing these runs, I don't want this to become a stall fest. So I dispatch him as quickly as I can and negate my stat drops with items. Again, Giga Destroyer plus Vaccine removes him quick. Now I can use reverse and remove his comrades. This fight almost took an extra KO from me in my trial run, so I wanted to come into this fight as prepared as possible. So Bearmon, like others, get a glow up here, and in my trial runs, he actually did take a KO from me. He is surprisingly dangerous. King of Fists reduces your defense, and Leomon uses this frequently. Even more troublesome than that though, is his Nano Machine Break, due to my double weakness. But I do have a tool that can make this fight a little more manageable. Remember Venom Trap? It doesn't get to see a whole lot of action in these runs, but it is crucial here. Leomon, for a non-boss, has a very large health pool, and with triple turns, this melts him away very fast. And not a moment too soon, the damage was really starting to pile up. You will notice that the problem with healing items is normally you won't get a full recovery. 50 capsules won't help you being limited to one per turn. Trying to balance keeping max buffs applied and keep healing up does become challenging in the late game. So Leomon joins us to go or not. he decides to make the ill-advised decision to go to the Paradise Coliseum alone. And I promise you, this does not go over well.
Grapleomon got tossed around like an old rag.
No way.
He really is fortunate that we are arbiters of time. Now he joins us as we make our way to the Coliseum for a showdown with his brother Calusmon. I will make a small note here. I forget to equip Reversal before Skull Meramon, which is bad. But I have Venom Trap, which is good. If he had prioritized Metal Greymon early and often, this could have been a bad situation. But Poison does its job, Aegio has a quick snooze, and we advance to the final round. But Calusmon doesn't have much going for him. Metal Greymon once again resists virtually everything he could do to me in this fight. A fully attack boosted Giga Destroyer does over 6,000 damage, which against the boss is pretty insane at this point. Even Calusmon's strength bolstering gimmick can't help him, as I break him out quite easily from his special move, Rodeo Bullet. If it weren't for the boss gauge, I wouldn't even count him as a boss on the list. But don't worry, there will come a time Calusmon gets his dues. Grapleomon says his farewells to his brother, and adds another crystal to our Doomsday counter. The timeline repeats and the Shinjuku Inferno happens again, but this just gives us another way to alter fate. The key is stopping Marukimon from waging war in Central while he's poisoned. And Venusmon does what she does best. Wolfman returns to form, and it's time to take back what the friendly Mons have lost, their home, Central Town. This section of the game to me is peak Digimon. Sure, battle animations are a little lackluster, but just look around. There's so much going on in this Digiwar. Details aplenty. And the one that stands out to me is Angemon and Devimon. This was an absolute design choice by the devs, and it succeeds in hitting the nostalgic beats close to my heart. Anyone remember 01? Fantastic moment. The Mons in our path are all pretty simple to clean out. I work through the city and encounter Marukimon and Cherubimon in a face-off. But the classic villain form stands. Cherubimon is not our enemy. Venom Myotismon comes to fight his battle. This fight does have potential to be hard, but a couple things line up just the way I need it to make it easy. For starters, this is probably the first time Giga Destroyer has been outmatched in this entire run. By Saint's Knuckle, no less. Holy does become a standard for most vaccine mons in the late stage of the game due to the modifiers. To be honest though, Saint's Knuckle at 400% and Giga Destroyer at 300% were so close in damage totals, I was hesitating to choose which one at times. To me, this is a prime example of how crucial a Mon's signature move can be to make a run a little easier or a little more challenging. A bad signature will really hurt a Mon's potential in the run timing. Also, with Maximum Bond, double extra strikes has some very clutch moments in this fight. More DPS is always appreciated when the game's willing to offer it. The final thing that makes this fight easy is Venom Myotismon's insatiable desire for Wolfmon. Seriously, he spends 80% of this fight targeting him. On one hand, I like that NPCs can't be KO'd. They are there for story purposes. On the other, moments like these do take away from the difficulty of these runs now and again. But we take the good with the bad, and we trudge forward. While I have been skipping over side quests, I won't skip out on commenting on this one. Want to know the definition of a turd? This? Yeah. For the record, I do think he is adorable. I really love his design. But I cannot stand the attitude. Reminds me of my teenager some days. We've all been there once, but this guy has more subs on his beach than I do on my channel. Such an ungrateful lad. Moving past all that, we head to the Dark Field. This is the most tedious part of any of these solo runs. I do love what they did with Gekomon though, he's fantastic comic relief. But teleportation is slow, too slow, and you have to do it twice. Enemies here are a joke for Metal Greymon, so I get some farm along the way and get to the Dark Garden, where the Lord of the Region himself resides, Lord Plutomon. I do a check of my skills and add Angel Ladder 1 to my skills. I really wish I had Angel Ladder 2 here, but I work with what I have. I also opt for more raw attack, as Plutomon has dangerous gimmick. Encircling him is a mist. This mist dispels all healing. Any healing you do will become permanent damage against you. In most runs, Plutomon is the game's DPS check. If you don't have enough offensive output, he will grind you down slowly and methodically, without recovery. This boss mechanic is up there as one of my favorites in Time Stranger. It's very unique to see. And he almost gets me with the Hell Slicer in this fight. I use Angel Ladder 1, but due to it being Tier 1, I don't even get half the gauge broken. This could be bad. Well, that's convenient. The clutchest of timings here. With Burst for an easy break, the fight swings in WarGreymon's favor. Good thing too, because Thunderfall 3 was actually starting to deal some stacking damage. Now, we rule Darkfield. Is this a story? Nah. Is this how I picture it with WarGreymon? Absolutely. Yes, it is. We report to Marukimon and return to Rebellion Village, but not before we meet the star of the run, WarGreymon. Just gonna go off script here, but I'll tell you this. The OST for the Digimon movie was absolutely legendary to this day. If you haven't heard it, go listen to all the songs on it. So where do we begin? WarGreymon has a lot of good things going for him. But something worrisome? Going into the late game, many Mons will use Dark, and he gains a weakness to it. It's a bit concerning, but it's not all bad. I do have Dark Guard. Terra Force is just a slightly upgraded Giga Destroyer going from 90 base damage to 95 base damage. But the real star here is Great Tornado. I will be running crit attachment as much as I can, as this gives me a base chance of 1 in 4 to hit a crit. However, we can boost this significantly with crit boosters or multi-booster Bs. So it is a respectable typing to have inherently. Also at this point, we gain access to Digiride that's actually worth it. While I did use WarGreymon's ride capacity before, he is basically on par with the Agent's speed dash. WarGreymon is faster though due to his hover. This will help getting around the rest of the game. We chat with Simmons, and we go visit another old friend, attempting to get another notch to our mural. There is a whole sequence in the lab where you have to create a card key, but nothing really of interest happens here. I get the card key, go save Volcanismon, but... Yep. Always arriving fashionably late. So time to change fate again. The Shinjuku Inferno happens once more, and we alone as the agent return to the lab. So we get to our old buddy in time and try to skip out. Unfortunately, Kuga is one step ahead, bringing his mighty machine to spice up the escape. Kuga's machine is of unknown typing. This fight is pretty much a blow-for-blow slugfest. He would be an issue with Tear Gas Bomb, but once again, I've made preparations for this with stat recovery. Accuracy down is really the most irritating stat debuff in the game in my opinion. I even shrug off his advanced grenade launcher when he gets desperate. I admit, last run I did, I complained about WarGreymon's defenses to Reddit. But having played this a couple times with a couple other Mons for testing purposes, and now recording with this playback, his stats are actually pretty good for a standard Mon. Slowly but surely, we shut his robot down for good and send him running. With Volcanismon safe and another tally to our mural, it's time to head to the cosmic areas. This part seems controversial, but on a thematic level, I think both are exceptionally well detailed and representative of their corresponding rulers. First we hit up the Flame Cosmic for a Heat Seed, followed up by the Chill Cosmic for a Chill Seed. As this is the first video and it's rather long, just know I grind here a bit using Known Bug to better my advantage in the Flame Cosmic. This minor item switch is a tremendous help for the time being. More so, I really just want to get into talking about the fight. The fight with Apollomon to me has been the best in this run so far. Neither of us have an advantage here. Apollo matches me blow for blow. Typing, bulk, resistances, and so on. This is a long and grueling fight. Look at how little his life meter moves at max power. This is with cheer in effect. Now look at his damage. It's not exactly a small amount. In the long term, I need boosters. I need heals. And I need to guard. I forgot the one advantage I could have had in this fight, being dark. Overall, going in I was underprepared. I didn't plan on how to encounter this one near as well as I should have. I can't even break his Soul Blaster with my burst. This goes very, very, very slowly. 15 minutes slowly. Carefully I whittle him away, balancing item use consistently, and he does eventually go down. Go down? Nah. We just fired him up. And now he's blazing a path right towards Dianamon, so we need to be in hot pursuit. The Frost Cosmos has seen better days as Apollomon takes no prisoners on his rampage. we encounter a slide of penguins which actually tagged me a couple times. A very angry polar bear stands between us and Dianamon. Guess she's quite the animal lover. Then, alongside Apollomon and Pumpkinmon, oh yeah, we've had this adorable, albeit evil pumpkin with us the whole time. He wasn't just a decoration. But together, we stand against Dianamon. This is a very interesting boss fight, and not because it's hard. This is actually much faster of a battle than Apollomon was. No, what makes it interesting is reverse. Not using this on many bosses this run makes me rethink my whole move selection. And in the perfect irony, Icicle Edge 3 is the answer here. Due to multi-wall, sleep is a non-issue, but Arrow of Artemis does do a lot of damage. I was honestly considering remaining 100% offensive, but that overconfidence wouldn't have been good, as even though I guard, I still take around 2k damage. If I hadn't guarded, I'm looking at closer to 5k. Bad RNG, and she may have actually had a chance in this fight. But this wasn't the boss I was worried about. No, that would be the next one coming up. Clearing the palace out really isn't an issue. A couple mobs and a very determined Angel Warden, good times. 8 minutes. That's it. It's areas like this that I just adore in these runs. Rarely tedious and straightforward. I mean, after a couple runs, you master the route so you don't even have to encounter Clavis Angemon till the end. Unfortunately for Clavis, a few crits, attack boost, Great Tornado later, he's locked away for all eternity. Or at least until we help Junomon.
Why am I trapped in here?
We will see. I mentioned earlier in the run, Idle Bubble would be useful. Well, this is the area. Busting Minervamon out with the help of Apollomon and Dianamon is a breeze, and we make it to Junomon's chambers. Well, I think that's Junomon anyways. The years haven't been friendly to her in any case. Now folks, for my next trick. I break the game. No, seriously, I've done 8 solo test runs in preparation for this channel. And what's a common thread here? This boss breaking after using Chain Lash. Prior to this happening, the fight actually begins to get a little intense. As a quick breakdown, at 75%, 50%, and 25% of her power, the power of the temple itself grows. This has numerous effects. It completely cuts off item use. In this fight, and only in this fight, do I ever really feel the need for the heal cross art. You are your Mons support. This action completely nullifies you and leaves your Mon alone to do all the work. And number 2, it lowers all of your stats and exposes you to far more damage intake and far less output. As Junomon gets low on HP, the compounding effect actually makes the final push difficult to overcome. But then she uses Chain Lash. Beyond this point, she literally does nothing. This is a well-known bug, and I really do hope Bandai and the devs address this in the future by the launch of the DLC. This has happened in 5 of 9 of my runs now, and it sucks. No mincing words, but as this is far out of my control, I will just keep trucking along. The whole revelation in this game is just so cleanly and crisply done. Not taking anything away from the final section of the game, but Jupitermon and the Giant Slayer is just peak Time Stranger. Peak Digimon. No other description. Scripted as it may be, for a fight, I love it. This is everything Digimon does best. Kaiju battles and epic climaxes. And it's this that made me relive the nostalgia for everything I grew up on. It's this that made me feel deep down like a kid at heart again. My boys like modern Digimon, but I was there for the OG. Day 1. Core memories were unlocked and it redefined a part of myself. This may have strayed off course a bit, but I don't care. My project, my rants, my discussion. This is passion. Embrace it with me. So, back to the run. After a long sequence of cutscenes, we end up in the Akashic Records, a dimensional anomaly, and home to the Sealed God wannabe. With Meat Shield back in the party, it's time to make the final push to the end of the game. As this channel is partially inspired by Poketubers, this is our Elite Four. This is our champion branding. The 7 Demon Lords now stand between us and Chronomon. Earlier in the run, I stopped at the factory and dropped 200k yen on what I hope will pay dividends in the final stage, the Union Guard, light and dark. There is a good chance I will use this against multiple of the 7 Demon Lords due to WarGreymon's weakness to dark. I do one final major stockpile, loading up on dozens of boosters, capsules, whatever I may need. I even stop back to Central in the present day to ensure multi-boosters. I do not intend on making another item resupply between now and the end of the game. Time to bring this run to an end. So the fight with Barbamon really isn't too bad. I use my Union Guard to negate my natural weakness to dark. Barbamon's gimmick is the same as a Kuwagumon. He spawns endless allies to his side, so targeting them isn't advised. WarGreymon is tanky though, which gives me confidence. Anytime I drop below a certain HP threshold, I make sure to top up. And, as a bonus, I bring in heal again as my crossart, simply because I don't believe Barbamon and his group can actually do much to WarGreymon thanks to the typing. He does attempt to flip resistances, but with overheal and a reverse on the shelf, it's back to square one. With full focus on the leader and a little bit of Saint's Knuckle, he falls very quickly. To be honest, I've never had Mons struggle too much here, but his random allies can force a player to change tactics quickly based on typing. Now, on to the second Demon Lord, Creepymon. This is one of those 2-stage fights you need to consider, but with WarGreymon's signatures, this provides me a lot of flexibility in my move selection. Again, Holy is king in this section of the game. I do make sure I have heal, just in case. Chimeramon needs to be reversed, but part 1 of the fight is fast and non-threatening. Part 2 is where things pick up a bit. The thing going in favor of WarGreymon is again his typing. However, both Millenniummon do use triple actions to open the fight. This means enemies will get a collective 7 turns for every one of mine. But enemies aren't infinite in this case, despite the game attempting to imply that. I focus down one Millenniummon at a time, tanking and healing as necessary and boosting myself when I have a brief window. But by now, Aegio's having a good nap, and I hit Millenniummon, but he doesn't go down. I decide to focus attacks on the second Millenniummon and hope that my allies will actually attack it. But no, Marsmon and Callusmon have a brilliant strategy of draining Creepymon instead of going for the obvious attack. Thanks, guys. Now Creepymon is alone, and at this point he triples up his actions, but it's far too late. He alone doesn't have the damage output to take down WarGreymon, and it's quickly finished up. Moving on to Lilithmon. There is a sequence of events where you have to retrieve fruit for Bacchusmon, but I won't get into this. This is routine, simple stuff. I equipped Icicle Edge for Cerberusmon and Ignition Flare for Canon Bmon. I do make a critical error though. I take off Icicle Edge. Why is this a problem? Well, Lilithmon is accompanied by 2 Cerberusmon, and they are very tanky mutts. Lilithmon is a very tricky foe, but lacks sustainability. I've had her go down before her 2 allies in the past. She uses character reversal, boosts her spells, triples her attacks after 50% of her HP is gone. Oh, and she can inflict injury. To counter this, I bring in X-Heal. Just because my agent will struggle to heal my Mon, doesn't mean my Mon can't heal himself. I use bursts to chip away at the doges, use multi-recoveries anytime I'm injured, and just keep chipping with boosters where available. The only means I have to bring down the dogs that are even remotely effective is Saint's Knuckle. They are vaccine type and resist my fire and null, making my signatures less than important. I cannot believe I unequipped the one move I had that would simplify this battle. But there's so much to think about in these runs, it's easy to overlook. The dogs do eventually go down though, and Lilithmon decides to reverse. I kept mine, so I eat a hit, then reverse myself to regain the advantage. Though it is a long fight, with the help of my allies Rosemon, Lotsumon, and Griffamon, the Third Lord returns to the records. Leviamon is hard. No, that's what I'd like to say, but he's not. All I need is Nano Machine Break 3 and some critical attacks, and yeah, he just gets burned through. I'm not sure what kind of balance the devs were thinking this fight could provide the player this late in the game. Sure, he has a lot of AoE, but he seems underpowered. 9 runs in this format now, and this guy has caused 0 problems. Venusmon's recovery and Neptunemon's damage just feel overtuned here. Or is Leviathanmon just too low on defenses? I'm not sure what you want me to say here. Just watch the fight in the background. During this monologue, you'll see I thrash him. Another easy or undertuned battle. Just saying. Like Leviamon, Lucamon has never caused me any issues. That said, do not skip out on multi-wall here. Lucamon's signature move, Divine Atonement, does cause instant death. Multi-wall is a staple on the equipments, but there are cases where you may remove it and not struggle. This isn't one of those times. Do yourself a favor and make sure you have this on in your own runs. His only other chance against me is if I destroy myself from his attack reflect, which he does use right away. While this stalls me on time, I'm not making the mistake of attacking into it. I did that with my Metal Garurumon trial run and almost paid the piper. Either way, he's no issue for WarGreymon. This is a side note though, as you don't get to see it in this fight, but Junomon can inflict deadly poison to him. So he's not immune to poison. Something to consider should Amon be struggling here. I really hope they buff the difficulty of Lucamon and Leviamon just a little bit someday. Of course, I don't see this happening, but it would be nice. They feel more like lieutenants and not lords, which bugs me because I really do like the designs of them and I like the place they're put in the game. They are, in Pokemon terms, the Brunos of the Elite Four. If you know, you know. That's all I'm saying about them. Take everything I said about the last two Mons and throw it in the bin. Beelzemon is a brute. He's taken multiple KOs from me, time in, time out, including my last WarGreymon attempt. This run is KO free, and I aim to keep it that way. I make sure that I have the Union Guard, as most of his attacks are dark. I considered removing multi-wall in exchange for defense, and really I should have. But I don't. Saint's Knuckle again is essential, and I make sure I have on my X-Heal. I also use High Field in this fight to negate the single combo. Now, it's time to deal with the devil himself. So what do I worry about in this fight? Well, he's tanky, he hits hard, he primarily focuses the player and not Minervamon. This is both thematic, very cute, but very annoying. And he bolsters his crits for more combat unpredictability. One more thing. Chaos Flare is absolutely insane. I want to see this move as little as possible in this fight. It's just brutal if he catches you even once with it off guard or triples down on it after charging his crit. So I take this fight very seriously. Offense is not priority, it is secondary. I ensure my defenses are buffed up as often as I can and apply crit where able, but due to his damage output, I can't get my damage cranked up to maximum the way I like. Turn by turn, I chip. And with one final risky attack, I bring the devil to his knees. I'm glad this went well, but no matter how many times I do this fight, I do worry. I have been wombo comboed before and taken out in a single turn. So, I check my moveset and prepare for the final of the Demon Lords, Belphamon. This hands down is my favorite fight of the game. Not due to the difficulty, not due to the boss itself, but this. See? Told you he gets his dues in time, stranger. I just love this. Comic relief at its finest. To start the fight, he's just there and reluctant to do anything. But he is very nice meat shield when we don't have Aegio here. I also forget to equip the cross strike art, again, and due to this, I won't get the first strike in the battle, since Belphamon's first damage taken is basically a substitute for the real fight. I don't like giving him the first strike, but I will manage this time around. So I boost up and heal as I can, buying time as Nanomon couldn't care less. No, really, he couldn't. I buy time until Marukimon shows up and does what a leader does. Gentle encouragement.
You there. Though I don't know who you are, don't just stand there, assist us.
My boy wants a smack? Well, he's gonna get one. And at this point, Nanomon steals the fight as the MVP. I know they want to give all the Mons their time to shine, but throwing poop on a Demon Lord and literally making them lose the will to fight is one of the funniest things I have ever seen in Digimon. So worth talking about this battle, just for this moment. With no will left to fight, Belphamon basically throws, and WarGreymon sweeps the final Demon Lord in our path. All that remains is the being of time itself, Chronomon. We're finally here. So, this is it. This is my final WarGreymon stats. HP is immaculate, naturally. SP is alright. When gauging what's good come endgame in this format, I have a general tracking sheet through my 9 runs. A Mon with over 5.5k in attack or intel is very solid. We meet this criteria. A Mon with 3.5k in defense and special is solid. We meet this in defense, but not special. Speed usually isn't a big factor in the endgame, but notably 3k is a good range to end the game in, and we meet that. This shows that WarGreymon can be a very beginner-friendly solo mon for this format. He has good sustain, elementally he's good, it's easy to compensate for his weaknesses. His natural signature selection gives him good leash to utility, and building into crit with Dragon Tornado's natural critical rate, I feel is the route to take for the final fight for Chronomon. I equip the Crimson Dragon Fragment and we engage in combat one last time. This fight is a bit of a gimmick fight in a lot of ways. The fight is more about the Olympus 12 than it is about you. But don't let that fool you. You can be KO'd in this fight. I have had it happen once, and let me tell you, you want to feel pain? This fight is always 25 minutes or more long. Having to do this twice is no fun. Trust me on that one. In each phase of the battle, a sequence with allies takes place. First, Neptunemon, Venusmon, and Marukimon. Then, Bacchusmon, Volcanusmon, and Marsmon. Followed by Junomon and Plutomon. But before any of that, a lot of stuff happens. First, Chronomon locks your cross arts. No CP gain in this fight means it's all WarGreymon and friends on the damage front. Secondly, Chronomon has a barrier that negates 90% of damage. This is just a stall moment. But I will say, the scene is satisfying enough on its own with Omnimon, but if you're not worried about the timing of your runs, I just encourage seeking out the Royal Knights. The bonus cutscene with them is on par for one of the best unified Mons Strike Team collaborations I've seen in the series. Seriously, if you haven't seen it, and you don't plan on playing the game, do look it up. It's worth a watch. And so the barrier breaks, and the real battle begins. The only thing you have to worry about here is to spare unto confusion. It does percentage-based damage, so every time it hits you, you will need to recover from it. And also every time he uses this, it'll switch allies out to progress the conflict. You just have to hope after using this, he doesn't hard focus your Mon as a target. Eventually, Chronomon becomes very angry and legitimately babyfies your Mon. All hope is lost. The meat shield nap counter would be off the charts here. What a very, very tired lad. But Dianamon is very opposed to nap time when there's work to do. She will spam X Revive on Aegio to keep him on his feet. In turn, Aegio will use a prayer that will slowly re-digivolve your Digimon back up their chain. Not gonna lie, in a solo partner run, this part hits home for me. The journey from beginning to end just comes rushing back as I fight through these stages. And to honor this, I will always use their signature moves in this sequence during these runs. It just fits. And so, we get to work. First, Bodemon uses Acid Bubble. It does nothing, but is necessary. Agumon then returns to the field and throws out a Pepper Breath. Hey, I got it right this time. Greymon's turn, and for old time's sake, he uses Mega Flame. And now, Metal Greymon's turn, and we waste no time dishing out a Giga Destroyer. So finally, we return to WarGreymon, and Minervamon joins us here for one final push. And just for a moment, I want to say no matter how many times I play through this section of the game, I can't bring myself to skip this scene. This is going to be a mandatory section of any of my runs for personal reasons, but I won't be including it in every video. I think the voice actor absolutely nailed this part. Minerva's speech is so realistic and fits her character so well. The growth and the development of her character truly peaks here, and I love to see her go from self-doubt to supreme confidence. Kinda like me in these recordings, I'm starting to gain confidence. And so, Mervy and I, we engage in our final tango. I begin cycling my multi-boosters with healing items just to keep topped up in damage and HP. This part of the fight is a breeze to maintain. We even get a chance to break Chronomon, which I never see happen in these fights. That said, it literally does nothing due to his multiple turns. One final Terra Force, and a great tornado later, and we have done it. The final sequence of events now takes place. With the power of the Olympus 12, we fuse Aegio, punch a hole in time itself as Jupitermon, and WarGreymon has done it. I want to be proud of the results, but deep down, I can't be. And not because it was a bad playthrough. In fact, this is my first solo partner run with 0 KOs. It is a bit ironic that it came in my first recorded video, but with the other 2 WarGreymon runs to my name due to trials, I can't be too overjoyed. Also, look at the final time. Cleared save is 15:04. The setup time took 47 minutes. So, I get a result time of 14:13. In all my runs, this would be considered good as it falls between most Mons in the test runs. But I will come clean here. I took at least 1 hour of footage extra in this run. These come from scenes I'll typically skip in my runs. So his actual time would be closer to 13:13. I won't be adding that mulligan to this run. No freebies. 14:13 is the official runtime, and that's it. To resolve this in future runs, I am doing a side run where I collect only cutscene footage. When it comes to the back-end process of these videos, this will give me an ease of access to particular footages I need as needed without impacting runtime. Do keep in mind, as I said before, I am 14 years removed from any kind of video production, so needless to say, a lot has changed technologically, and relearning everything is a process. It'll come together. But back to the final results. The last component I measured is level. The average level of these runs doesn't shift too much. In this case, it was 51, which is the average amongst my tallies. The range usually falls between 49 and 53. To end these videos, I will be adding the Mons to a tier list, but not just WarGreymon. Nope, he gets his official ranking. But I also, behind the scenes mind you, record Digivolution splits. This is a metric that I use to gauge just how good any given Mon was in their section of the game. So where does Kuwagumon rank then? Well, since we have no frame of reference currently, or nothing to compare to anyway, I would say his section was a breeze. But surprisingly, in my trial run of Kuwagumon, Chronomon does outperform him, so I won't be putting him in S tier. I will give him a solid A tier for now. Greymon is very average, like very average. Many other test Mons were just better than him, so reluctantly I have to consider that and for the moment put him in the B rank. He's not bad though, all things considered, but his resistances do hold him back a little bit. Metal Greymon is God tier. If only it weren't for his double lightning weakness. I'm telling you right now, certain bosses had prioritized lightning moves more and there would have been a KO or 2 along the way. So I cannot put him in S tier in good faith. A tier, like Kuwagumon, is fair. And now for our Mon of the hour. Well, hour and a half in the case of this video. WarGreymon. I will put him in the A tier also. He is a very consistent Mon, has a great deal of late game tankiness, and does have a solution to most endgame foes. This is very befitting of the series' residential OG mascot. The only thing stopping him from S tier at the moment is time. There may come a day where I do re-rank him, but we will see. And that's it. That's my first official NCLDOD solo partner run. I gotta say, this whole video has been a ton of fun for me and I just want to do more of them. I want to start the next one like right now. But as I need work on other things on the back end, I can't. I want to increase my efficiency for these videos, so currently that's priority. If my plan goes according to plan, let's face it, life never does. But should it choose to be nice to me, I may be able to get a solo run out every 2 weeks. 1 week of recording and script, 1 week of audio and editing. I make no promises here, simply because I'm unsure of the time frames as of right now. I just want to remind everyone that these runs are about 15 hours long. Then there's at least another 20-25 hours of editing on the back end, if not more. So I can only pump them out so quickly, unfortunately. Also, just a minor note on the back end with the wife. She is doing some artwork to add to the channel and these videos where she can in her own time, but this project is mine. This project isn't exactly her cup of tea, but she does support me in doing it, and by extension, for all of you, the viewer. I cannot ask for a greater partner in this journey we call life than her. That about wraps up. If you've come to the end of this video, as you can see, I'm doing what I can on my end to better future videos, and I want to extend a special thanks to all of you out there. In Digi terms, you are Mega Plus. Sub, like, etc., I'm not begging for that. We all know how the YouTube algorithms work by now. If you wish to support this journey, do the thing. For now, Destin Digiman, Ryudo Reaver, signing out. See you all on the horizon.
Hey Digimon, monster friends to the boys and girls. Hey Digimon, champions of the digital world. Hey Digimon, ultimate friends to the boys and girls. Hey Digimon,